It's not where you start, it's where you finish. It's not how you go, it's how you land.
When kids' shows go out on a tour, especially on something as ambitious as this with 8 or 10 performances, folks typically will send out just a few musicians, you know, kind of the bare bones group. And I really thought it was important to bring a larger group of musicians. The kids really got a full sounding, a full sounding score to the show, which I think is important because, you know, in a lot of these more rural areas, they don't have any professional orchestras, and they don't really have a depth of professional musicians. And so to come in and play music and give them a show they can easily relate to with musicians who care about this kind of work, it really made it special.
We know for a fact that shows like this are not touring to these kids.
We took it to West Virginia, which is where Luke's from. I think that's really awesome, seeing somebody I look up to giving back to their community. And I think APO is one of those like really delicious organizations like that. And that's like so exciting. I think, you know, it definitely does feel like a meeting of two different worlds. And I think like in a time such as this, our introductions are the best way to start a conversation.
When we get out there and tell these corny jokes and do balloon animals and stuff, they just love it. They love it. And there's something really fulfilling in being a part of something like that.
I'm the drummer on this tour, and it's really fun to get to see the kids laugh at the jokes, dance to the music.
It's been really fun to just bring smiles to their faces and hopefully bring some inspiration, some creative excitement. And even if it's just saying, oh, I've seen a musical before, I've seen people singing and dancing, I've seen a band play, that's pretty cool.
So it's very common in many schools today that music programs are being cut, which is no mystery to anyone. So choirs and bands and all sorts of groups go quickly. And one of the first groups in a lot of areas to go is the orchestra. And so a lot of kids today don't even know what the string instruments are that are being played on stage.
That's often the first thing to go in funding and budgeting is arts, music, any kind of education that people think is superfluous, when actually music is such an important part of life.
I come out before every show and I teach them what the bass is, and the cello, and the viola, and the violin, and the guitar, and the drum set, and the piano.
Now, Mr. Greg, will you play us the lowest note you have on your bass? That is the biggest string instrument we have with us.
And the kids get to hear them, and they get to interact with the musicians. And I really try in all the arrangements in the show to give out solos so the kids can really hear what each individual instrument sounds like, and most importantly, what they sound like together.
Some of these kids have never seen a viola before, and some of these kids have never seen a violin before. And so to bring in some of these arrangements with these musicians, these kids are getting a seed planted in their brains or in their hearts that later will probably end up either bearing fruit by what they produce or through their enjoyment of music later in life.
When you're at that age, different things that you're exposed to, you know, spark a different interest and a different pathway in your brain of like, oh, maybe this is how my life could be. Maybe this is what I could do for my, for my career, or maybe this is something that I always want to have as part of my life. Either way, that's the goal. Is for us to get art and music and acting and just any type of performing arts out to the kids, because it is, just across the board a beneficial, healthy thing for kids to be involved in.
Some of the music is rather sophisticated, and it really feels like these kids are getting it. It's really actually very touching to see them engage, not only with the music, with the actors, and get into the plot of the play.
Maybe instilling that little spark that will make them want to audition for the school musical or start playing in the band when they get to middle school, or even those little things that may affect their life in small or larger ways.
To see this boy, who is in elementary school, discuss how inspired he is by music was really what made this a home run trip for me.
It's really much more emotional than I thought it would be. There's been a couple times that I've looked out and started to cry, or almost started to cry, because the kids are so moved by it in such an honest way. To look out on a sea of kids who are like leaning forward and bright-eyed and jumping up and down and screaming, it's it melts my heart. You know, some of them in the crowd are going to be professional actors and singers and dancers now, because that's how it happens, you know. They just have to see it once and then they go, oh, I could do that? I can do that for a living? Yeah, I want to do that, you know. So I remember being this age and going, oh my God, yeah, I'll do that. That's an option for me. Yeah, of course I'll do that. So we're planting a little seed, and that's incredibly important.
For me, growing up, we would have shows like this come to our schools, and I loved it. And that's a big reason why I started to do community theater, and now I am a professional performer.
I've had a lot of teachers come up to me and say that this is the most engaged the kids have been in the auditorium in years. So we were happy to have that be the case. One of the most transformative experiences in my education was when I was in elementary school. And I can remember a string quartet coming to school and watching them demonstrate their instruments. And I can still remember that so vividly. And what's a real shame is that so many schools don't have that chance anymore. There's just no funding. There are no opportunities, no resources. And one of the reasons I wanted to commit to doing this is because I believe that music is a right, and I believe that every child, no matter their background, no matter their income, no matter their race, class, that they should have access to the arts.
We say it best at the end. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And that's just life.
It's not where